welcome to Rock This Universe Actors Edition. I am your host, Chantal Herman, and this is the official podcast for the saactors.rockthisuniverse.com website, the only website dedicated to the inspiration and education of the professional actor in South Africa. So hey, it is 2018. Time to go deeper into the actor's life. Yeah, we've spoken about the basics of how to get into the industry, what to do when you're at a casting director, how to find an agent, etc. If you want all of that information, I have interviews on the website, so that's where you go. Go and grab them now. But this year I want to go deeper into the actor's life, how we navigate challenges and creative setbacks, and even negativity and depression, which is quite prevalent in our creative lives, in pursuit of excellence in our craft. So I'll also be talking to people who are working hard to help actors in the industry to be more versatile, more confident, and just, as we used to say in Priscilla, just plain better. So my guest today is Penny Bramwell-Jones, professional acting coach who's based in Johannesburg. We'll be talking with her about her work with actors all around South Africa. Yeah, she teaches people in Cape Town, in Joburg, and also in Durban coming up soon. Penny matriculated at the National School of Arts with honors in drama. She went on to study drama at the Tshwane University of Technology, TUT, and graduated with 5 distinctions in drama. She also studied further in the United States at the True Acting Institute with Larry Silverberg, where she specialized in the Meisner technique. Penny has also been a specialist in voice and communication coaching for the last 14 years, helping corporate clients, and she continues to express relentless passion for coaching people to be the best version of themselves. So, very warm welcome to Rock This Universe, Penny. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Awesome. There you are. Good to have you.
Good to be here. It's good to hear your voice. Yeah.
Great. So let's just get started. So you started out in performance. Tell me about the road that you took to becoming a teacher and a coach. I mean, was that always something that was in the background, or was it a surprise to you?
It was most definitely a surprise to me. I come from a family of teachers, so I always vowed that I would never go into teaching, that I was gonna take a different path. And so it was most definitely, well, to go into acting and not to go into teaching. So, and the constant voices in the background were always saying, well, you need something to fall back on. And I always thought, oh yeah, it's just because you didn't make it, You don't know what you're talking about. But later on, I realized that I did understand what they were talking about, and maybe something to fall back on is not necessarily a great way of putting it, because it just almost feels like failure before it even begins. But so my journey kind of ended up in coaching to kind of stay in the work. So after having studied and after working in the industry for about 7 years and realizing how tough it was and how inconsistent it was, I think that big realization of, like, do I go this way or do I go that way, it kind of hit, and I had to ask myself some very serious questions. I had to have a deep conversation.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not an uncommon conversation, because certainly when actors get to 30 and up, if not before, having experienced how difficult it is in the industry, and experienced having a paycheck 1 month and then having no paycheck for the next 2 months, and how to be able to navigate that effectively so that you can still feel inspired to be able to keep going. So, and you are right, because there is some sort of stigma around going into work, because if people hear that you're doing something else, then the natural idea, especially with actors, is that, oh, well, you couldn't crack it as an actual actor, so now you're going to go do something, sideways on the path. But it's such a layered conversation. I mean, there are so many reasons why one would have to choose it. And I don't know about you. I mean, like you say, you come from a family of teachers. So I think instinctively you also know what a calling that type of work is. So it's never really a decision that comes from just a flightiness of, oh hell, I need to make money. Let me just jump into teaching. I would say
Yeah.
that as creatives, I know being a creative, I'm the type of creative that loves doing lots of different things. So
Mm.
so yeah, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I share that view, doing different things because creative people tend to get bored quite easily. So I'd vowed to myself that I would never have an office-based job, that I wouldn't be sitting behind a computer on my bum, just not moving.
Amen to
But to
that.
to 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 have some variety, to never get bored. So to do a little bit of acting, some voiceover work, some teaching, some singing, some presentation, and ultimately coaching being the basis of what my work has been over the last 14 years. It's been like the bread and butter, but definitely the passion as well, because when I spoke about asking myself those serious questions, the question ended up being, well, what is it about this art that you love so much? What aspect of it is it that you love so much? Is it being in front of an audience? Is it wearing costume? Is it the audience clapping? Is it acknowledgement? What is it really? And so, delving deep into that question, the answer came to connection. This thing of having true connection, not only with myself, uh, like a deeper connection that allows me to be in a space where I'm not watching myself.
Mm.
And that's exciting, because when you're not watching yourself, that inner dialogue is not happening, that inner critic is not there, and it opens up a space for you to explore and be creative and to create something that wasn't there before.
Yeah, yeah. So for you, the word was connection and connecting with people.
Yes.
And this is such a great conversation to have because I mean, I've got my Rock This Universe group where it's all about inspiring creatives again, and not only actors. And I've also been talking this year, especially when defining your goals and defining what your purpose is in life. It isn't about some like one thing that you necessarily do and say, well, that is my purpose. My purpose in life is to be an actor.
Mm.
Um, it's more about being able to amplify that thing that really provides you with the inspiration and the sense of meaning and sense of purpose that you
Yeah.
want. And for you, it's connection, which isn't
Mm.
necessarily something that you have to have as an actor or you have to
Mm.
have as a coach or an employer or whatever else you want to do. But it's it spans so many I suppose different ways of being and different way. I mean, you can do whatever job you want to, but still you will then find your most rewarding work if it has that connection
Mm.
that you thrive on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a connection that opens space for new things to happen. That kind of connection where you feel like you don't know where things are going, but it's kind of exciting, and then you'll know when you get there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was specifically what it was that really drew me to say, well, that's the part I love the most. I love it, experiencing it in myself and looking back on it, and then I also love observing it in other people,
Mm.
to be able to facilitate the process of them getting there. So a lot of the corporate coaching I've done is kind of facilitating the process of getting somebody to connect to their message authentically,
Mm.
and then to deliver that message to the audience. And I think in acting, it's not much different. You still embodying that message, and you allowing that message to land in an authentic way.
Mm.
And
Using the character as the vehicle.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so just backtracking a little bit, I ended up starting an acting studio, and the acting studio wasn't necessarily targeted at professional actors. It was there for people to come and explore if they ever wanted to do acting in their lives and they never got the opportunity to do it, or to come in and build your confidence and experience this process of acting, or developing the voice, developing your instinct. And it kind of took me 7 years to narrow the scope even further, right? So to say, okay, well, I love this thing of connecting people and me being connected and observing that connection. But I think anybody who's had formal training would have heard of Meisner, and they would have heard of the method and Lee Strasberg and Stanislavski, and how it all started and where the basis of that kind of acting started, you know, in the late 1930s, 1940s, when we moved from stylized acting to more authentic, real acting. And that narrowed the scope even further for me. It's like I love the real acting, is that you, the human being, already have everything in you. It's already all there, and you're bringing that self to the space, and we're exploring that which you already have. And within that, there might be a dimension of other things that come up, but essentially it's the authentic you that I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah.
And so
when did you learn about Meisner? Was this in your college days?
I learned about it in college days. We went into Strasbourg and Stanislavski, but we never went into it fully. You know, we learned just a little bit, to know a little bit of what it was.
So what about it actually piqued your interest?
I started exploring the technique in my studio, and I like the fact that the technique offered very specific steps. There's steps involved. There's a progression of steps of kind of getting there, but there is a place that you don't know where there is.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the steps are very clear, and the boundaries within those steps are very well defined. And I realized over the years that I am a person who likes structure. I like there to be a map. I like that map because I like to know where I'm going, but at the same time, I don't like to know the details of where I'm going to end up. I'd like to kind of look back and go, oh my gosh, how did I get there, you know? So this is what the Meisner technique offered, and just using the first 3 steps of the technique in my classroom, I started noticing some very, very fascinating things with the actors, and I was filming them, and I noticed something that wasn't there before. And it was something that spoke to the audience in a way that they had never been able to make that kind of connection before in that kind of profound way. And that intrigued me so much, because I thought, well, if this is all I know about Meisner and I'm using just a little bit of what I know, and it was a difficult thing to get to know, because when you read any book on Meisner, it's really like a transcript on what's happening in the classroom.
Yeah.
He said, she said. So it's very difficult to gauge what's actually happening unless you're doing the work yourself.
Yeah.
You only know what the work is once you do it yourself. So I then read into the work even further after seeing the results from the work, and also watching people watching themselves on film and going, oh, wow, you know, that was amazing, and kind of critiquing each other and going like, where were you there? What happened there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I attended a symposium with Larry's. I started Googling like mad, like to find Meisner teachers and to find out more about the technique. And I came across Larry Silverberg. There were some really, really great testimonials on his work as a teacher, but also for the fact that he studied with Meisner himself. So I thought, well, this is as close to the source as I'm going to get. So I attended like a webinar symposium in around about 2015. And then in 2016 and 2017, I ended up going to the States and working with him. And the work was incredible. It was transformational, and it was tough. I'm not going to lie, it was challenging but to the point of I knew that these challenges were going to get me to a place where it was going to get me closer to where I wanted to be, not just as a teacher, but for myself in my life and with challenges that I've had in facing my own behavioral traits that don't work for me, that I had to go into that space.
Was that, I hesitate to call it a bonus, but I mean, was that an added benefit to doing Meisner, or is that sort of part of the actual technique to be able to bring these things up for an actor to address and then to be able to portray it more naturally on screen? I mean, what was it about?
That's a very good question, because it's yes on both sides. It was most definitely a bonus, but within that bonus lay in having done those steps and being very strict about doing them fully and not backing out of it, was a process of getting deeper to who it is I truly am, so that I could access more of what was lying in my intuition, in my instinct. It gave me a space to access that. So it was a bonus for my personal life, but in terms of acting, it really hones in on your ability to strengthen that instinct muscle that everybody has, and to be able to identify where it's sitting and sit with that discomfort. But the thing is, you never reveal the deep, dark details of what's going on in your inner psyche. Those are never revealed.
I was just about to ask that, because when it comes when it comes to actors coming to do an acting course after they've gone through college, I mean, many of us have quite harrowing tales of the stuff that they used to do at college to try and get us to feel, to want, to need, to etc., etc. And sometimes the idea of going to get acting coaching again and then have to go through what essentially was a hell of a trauma, to be able to access different parts of ourselves, because you can go to college and do drama lessons, but I don't think any actor worth their salt will ever feel that once they're out of college they've learned all they need to learn. So it's a constant thing where we actually need to be able to do this, but I think a lot of us are actually really scared to do it because of the idea of having to expose ourselves in that way, or just be so vulnerable in front of other people when, say, if we've done a couple of TV shows or done plays, we feel like, oh, well, they're going to look at us like we're supposed to know more than they do, and will I be able to prove myself when most of the time I don't really know what I'm doing?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I think the answer to that is always going to be, you should never, and Larry always said this to us, you should never know. You should never always know. And that leaves a space open to always being able to learn and to go deeper into this work, because it is a life work. It is something that you're working on all the time. I mean, it's like life. You don't just give up on life and say, okay, well, I've learned all these lessons now I must just live life. I mean, the whole thing of living life is continuing to learn lessons and grow within yourself. And I think for the actor is an extension of the human being. It's a representation of the human being and the human being's life. But I think what is quite challenging for the actor is going through episodes of extreme, exquisite expression, and then through like slumps of desert and nothingness, and then trying to pick yourself up again after having the nothingness for so long, and then trying to find your mojo again, and to say, well, I've been rejected so many times. Like I had something and I couldn't quite articulate what that something was, and I don't know how to get it back again, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I experienced that myself, where I went through some wonderful phases, like in my life, where I had wonderful work coming my way and I had wonderful experiences. But then when it stopped coming my way enough times, I started really doubting myself, and I wasn't able to access what that thing was that I was doing when I was getting it right. When I was getting it right, you know. And it's this Meisner technique journey has been this whole thing of, well, for most actors, from what I can gauge, it's like some actors are very specific about what they decide to choose that works for them. And then other actors, whether you've had formal training or not, it's kind of I'm just going to go and do my thing and hope that I land on the mark.
Yeah.
It's like free falling, and I hope I hit that. I hope I get that audition.
Yes.
But if there was a way you could be more specific into getting to your state of free falling, that you're very in that strategy, heading towards that free fall, and the free fall does itself. You don't quite know where the free fall is going to land, but you're very specific about reaching the free fall. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Because for me, what I feel you're talking about is really an innate sense of trust of self.
Yes. Of self. Absolutely.
Because I know there's always this juxtaposition of where the actor wants to go in and just kind of see how things happen. And like you say, you know, hope for the best, because they instinctively know that there's a magic that happens where you don't over prepare, where you don't kind of hit a script dead.
Yeah, and the aliveness.
Yes, absolutely. And yet there's also the other side, where if you do prepare correctly and you trust your own innate instincts in order to create the aliveness and the flow that you actually want. So it's kind of skating that thin line between the two of and you're saying that doing something like the Meisner technique would be able to get you to the point where you are prepared, but you're able to also give into the instinctiveness of being in the space and just creating.
Yes, absolutely. So that instinct muscle is strengthened beyond. And that's why it was bonus for me in my personal life to gain absolute clarity on decision making, on where to next, you know, what next. And I think what was also great for me, just from a teaching perspective, was that sometimes in a class environment, when you're being vulnerable and your story starts coming out, your relative story to the character starts coming out, it can be a very difficult thing to manage as a coach, because you don't want to be insensitive to that person who's opening up and expressing their feelings. But at the same time, you don't want to, for that whole class now to be directed on that one person. When you've got a class of 12 people and we've got one person telling their sensitive story, and now everybody else is like, okay, well, when are we going to get our turn? And everybody's feeling that same way, that we don't want to be insensitive to this person who's telling their heartfelt story, right? So I think what I loved about this technique as well is that it allows you to keep your story, and it allows you to keep your whatever's filling you and getting you to that mode of preparation. And this comes much later in the work, by the way. This is not the beginning stages, but getting you to that moment of preparing when you're coming out and being that character, is that you don't have to give that part of yourself away. You're able to. Larry always said there's some power in keeping that story, and keeping that story for you, and knowing how to work with that story inside yourself, and for you to own it and not to give it over. Because I think a lot of actors do feel that giving up their story and their vulnerability, in a sense, may weaken them, or may open them up to things that they don't necessarily want people to know about them, you know. But, you know, it's like, from a coaching perspective, it just kind of narrowed that space for like one person to kind of spend a whole half hour telling their story, and you're feeling like, I don't know if I can cut in here, because we don't need to go there with this work, but
Yeah.
we can still get the essence and the power from what you already have buried inside you. We can get that power out and get it into the message and into the character and out there, and let the audience feel it, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that sounds amazing. Tell me about the Meisner Acting Studio that you have in Johannesburg. I mean, I know that you have some like a much bigger vision than people, just hearing about Meisner Acting Studio. So it's not just about, coming and working and learning new things as an actor. Tell me what you've got cooking there.
Okay, well, yes, it is quite a big vision, but for now, I think being able to specialize in a technique and offer it to actors who, in a sense, want to keep in the game in between their working and while they're working, almost like a space of fitness for the actor. There was always this reference to, as the ballet bar is to the ballerina and scales are to the musician, the Meisner technique is to the actor, and that the actor should always be keeping fit and keeping fit within their craft. So years ago, there was some of the older actors may have gone to the Actors Center.
Yeah.
And I was part of the Actors Center years ago when it started up, and it was just a wonderful place, a community of actors, a place where they could go and share their skill and network and attend classes that were reasonably priced, and just to work on their craft, So for me, the Actors Studio, the Meisner Acting Studios, is that kind of place where people who are like-minded and like the idea of keeping within their self-expression and keeping fit in their ability to connect to themselves and others, that this is really going to help you do that. And whether you would like to go into it further in more detail as a technique that you can draw on for your work or for auditions or for whatever the case is, that it's another avenue that an actor can choose, but they should see it as a place where it's constantly working on their craft, and also where they can meet people who are like-minded and to chat and network and see what's going on out there. On a broader sense, I see this work as an opportunity for me to coach people who are really quite serious about acting. And serious, I mean, in that they really love the craft, they love the art, they love the art of acting. Not necessarily people who want to be rich and famous, although if that happens to be the byproduct of doing acting, then wonderful, but that it should never be the intention. And for me to get to a place where I can produce works that and direct and work with really brilliant actors who love and have a passion for the work, and to create something that is really, what I'm looking for is a space where actors can experience that true connection and bring that into their work and allow an audience to experience it too, because it is phenomenal, that intense connection that kind of hits you and you don't know it's coming, and then because you don't know it's coming, the audience doesn't know it's coming, and when they receive it, they're like blown away by it. So my greater vision for years, a couple of years time, is to allow an audience in to experience this amazing work.
My God, thank you for that. I'm tearing up on this side. That's just
Really?
beautiful. Seriously. Wow, Penny, that would be an awesome thing to be able to witness and see just grow. That's just amazing. Yeah, and just for my own part, I mean, I know how more confident I am when I'm busy doing a show and I have to go to castings. I feel a lot more confident when I am working in the industry, when all the cogs have been oiled, and I feel that I totally own my space when I go to auditions. So, and on the other side of it, I've seen friends who feel so totally scared and intimidated by the thought of going to a casting or an audition, or having to now sing in public or something like that, because they haven't been doing it for a while. It seems that being able to have a space to be able to keep working on your craft is not only a wonderful thing, but it's actually a necessity to be able to carry you through those weeks or those months where you are just needing to prep for that next thing that you're actually going to get.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that the people that I met in the States were constantly working on their craft. I mean, a lot of the people that I studied with were professors in university, but they were directors as well as actors. And it's almost like when they are not working or being paid to act, paid a salary to act, they are going to classes. It's just the done thing. It's what happens, and it's a no-brainer, you know.
Yeah.
So the people I had met had not only done the method, and they've got formal training where they've studied everything from before Stanislavski and onwards, and the offshoots from Stanislavski being Lee Strasberg and Sanford Meisner and all the great teachers. They then go on to Michael Chekhov, and they are constantly upskilling themselves in what they're able to do in terms of being stuntmen or doing fencing classes or horseback riding, whatever the case is. And unfortunately, here I think there's more of a culture of I'm just trying to survive first, you know.
Yeah.
So that's also a reason why, you know, like actors end up doing so many different things. You might end up in directing and writing and teaching and waitressing a little bit, and whatever the case is. There's so many different things that you're doing, but to know that everything that you're doing is going to contribute towards that great audition. It's you using all that material, all that experience, and how do you draw on all that experience in any given circumstance? And I remember years ago in my 20s when I was going for auditions, I was so fixated on being the character that I paid no attention whatsoever to building rapport with a casting director or building a better rapport with my agent and building relationships as I was going along. I was so like, I'm the serious actress and I'm getting to my character, and I loved character work, but I honestly didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't know who Penny was, and it's taken me years to figure out who this Penny person is. And one of my acting roles, I remember the brief was be yourself, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what can you give me in the play? What brief can you give me? Where does the character come from? Where are they going to? Like, who do they know? What do they mean to them? Like, give me that information. And like, it wasn't there, and I had to draw from it, from me.
Yeah.
And I honestly did not know how to do that. And it's a very different way of approaching things when you're approaching it from the inside out rather than the outside in. You know, like pasting on a character and then trying to make the character fit you. But if you're trying to draw on what you already have and trying to grow tentacles from that character and link that into the one that is being asked for, and even if in your authenticity you bring a new dimension to it, that's the thing that makes you stand out, you know. So the confidence to be able to do that really comes from a deeper place within yourself, and this technique has really helped me to access that place.
So the 10th of February, you've got something very cool coming up.
Yes. So I am offering a free session to actors at the Meisner Studio Joburg in Randburg. And it's a 4-hour session in which I'm going to introduce you to the work of Sanford Meisner and invite you to come up and experience it for yourself if you like. And if you don't want to experience it, if you want to just observe and kind of go in very delicately, I will be on the outside facilitating this whole process just to bring comfort to a technique that people might not know the details of. So after the session, you should walk away feeling like I've got a much better idea of what this Meisner technique is about and what it aims to do for me as an actor.
Yeah.
It should also give you an idea of if you would like to delve deeper into the technique, that there's an opportunity to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want people just to come check it out, try it on, see if you like it. If it's not for you, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But if there's something about it that talks to you and you feel you can get something out of it, I want you to just try it on first before you go in, because once you go into it, it does require commitment.
So you have a course that's also attached to this?
So yeah, in February and March, I'm offering sort of acting fitness classes, and they're Meisner-based classes, which is going to introduce you to the technique and help you to connect. It's going to help you to connect and get to the point of being able to work off the other partner, because a lot of the work is about feeding off what your partner is giving you. And so it'll get you really fit in being able to do that. And once you've done that, it's almost like a precursor into the intensive, which I'll be doing in May in Johannesburg. And then I'll also be doing another intensive in Cape Town in September. Mm-hmm. So for people in Joburg who don't know what the technique is about, come to these classes, come to the free session, check it out. If you want to do it, you can continue it in February and March. And if you want to go even further into the technique, there's May to do the intensive, to do the full course.
Yeah.
And
So who are these classes essentially geared towards? People who have never acted before, or who's it for?
I would say it's for anybody who is already in the acting profession. So I would say people who have had a bit of training, people who do have agents, and they're going for auditions, or they're in between work, or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And for those people who perhaps used to have an agent and they're not in it anymore and they'd like to get back into it and they'd just like to freshen up their skill. And then for people who haven't had any training but would like to get into the acting industry, and they would like a formal skill or a formal method of acting that they can use for going for auditions. Because I know the reality is that there's a pool of people that have studied for many years to become an actor that are not working actors, and then there's a pool of people who are working all the time and they've had no formal training. So it's for both those pools of actors, but essentially I would like to work with people who want to act, who have a special passion for acting, or the craft of acting. So
so where would they be able to find out more information about this?
They can find more information through Voice to Act. It's my main website. And I also have a group called the Meisner Studio Joburg. So if you go onto Facebook and you punch in Meisner Studio Joburg and become a member of that group, you can find me there. And then also on Instagram. So Instagram, my handle is Professional Acting Studio, and you can find me there, Penny Bramwell-Jones. And I have put the link for the acting fitness classes on Instagram. So that's probably the easiest for most people to access.
Okay, fantastic. What price are we looking at as far as the courses are concerned?
The acting fitness classes that I'm offering in February and March are very, very cost effective. They happen every Saturday, and you're looking at about 1,500. I've got discounted prices for PMA and Saga members, and then for non-members it's not hugely different. But so that's if you're just wanting to keep acting fit.
Yes.
But now if you're wanting to go into the full course, which is a 3-day intensive course from 9 in the morning till 9 p.m. and it's for 3 consecutive days, so it's quite a lot of work to get through, and it's very specific work to get through. So those courses are going between 4 and 5 grand, and they're also discounted prices for PMA and Saga members and non-members.
Okay.
So it's a wonderful investment, and I would suggest if you're wanting to do the intensive, there is an option to kind of pay it off over time. And also I know that actors are not sure where they're going to be. Like a lot of people say, well, I don't know where I'm going to be in May, and I could get a part, so I don't want to commit myself. So I understand that too. So I've offered actors an option to get a refund on their deposit. So if you're booking for the full intensive, you put down a deposit, and if 3 weeks before the course you're not going to be able to make it, you get that deposit back. So I have tried to be as accommodating as possible, but I must point out that this work is very specific, it is very intensive, and you're going to get results. You're going to get a lot out of it. So don't underestimate the investment that you're making in yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely something that we as actors need to cultivate, the sense that we are investing in ourselves and our career, and being more skilled in what we do so that we can get the jobs that we are hoping to get, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Penny Bramwell-Jones, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting to you. Learning more about acting, and yet learning more about ourselves as we go.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And let's do it together. Let's do this thing.
For sure. And to hook into the people who actually know what it is that they're talking about. So wonderful to meet you, Penny, and being able to talk about our industry and about our craft and the respect that we need for it, and the amazing connection that we can create with in ourselves, with each other, and the audience. I really appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to me today, and thanks so much to our listeners or viewers if you're seeing this in video format. Thanks so much for being here, and make sure that you grab onto the saactors.rockthisuniverse.com website for all the interviews and past interviews as well. I think I am on podbean.com if you have that app as well. And we'll just keep talking more and more about this so that everybody can understand how important our craft is, and how important it should be to us as business people and independent contractors. So I wish everyone a fantastic 2018, and whatever you're doing this week, I wish you the best. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.